Hey guys, I want to talk to you a little bit today about something that is called outcome independence, or in other words, the tremendous power that lies within not needing something in life. I just want to pick this apart a little bit to remind you. I think we all know these sorts of things deep down, but it's certainly, there are times when we're not thinking on these terms, or we're not always cognizant of this fact or these realities. And this certainly falls right in line with having an abundance mindset. I wrote an article a little while back. It's called The Succulent Salesman, but I was just talking about the general abundance mindset that you really should learn to approach life with. And there's all sorts of other folks out there on the internet and books and stuff that have been written about this very specifically. So do your own research, but I'm sure you've probably heard this term before, abundance mindset, and what that all means. But just very specifically here, talking about outcome independence as you approach any situation in your life. There's so much power in not really caring what the outcome of anything that you might be considering could be or could turn out as. And it just, like I said, it's more just like a reminder message today. I think that we all need to get good at rationing on our lives where we are in a situation, and maybe there are some ones. There certainly are things in our lives that are going to happen where we are dependent on an outcome for some particular reasons. Most things in life, I think you could safely say that most of us are outcome independent, but we might be not thinking in that way. We might be mistaken in thinking that we are dependent on the outcome. And like I said, that's just the biggest thing to try to leave you with today after you listen to this one, is just to really try to think about your situation and really ask yourself, like, am I dependent on this outcome or am I not? Some examples, let's say that you are out on a hike one day with a guide or a friend or something, and you're very far from any sort of other help, and you get bitten by a rattlesnake. And you've only got a certain amount of time to get either an antidote or get some treatment to ensure that you're going to survive, you're going to live. And let's just say that your friend or this guide or whatever suddenly turns into a not so nice person, and they tell you that they have an antidote in their backpack, and they've only got one. And now that it's suddenly so valuable to you in this situation, they say, well, this is going to cost you $1,000, right? And you're in this position where you're not really in a good position to bargain, and you probably want to survive. And so in this case, like, you're very much outcome dependent, right? Like, you need this negotiation to go well, and you need to pay that $1,000, and you're probably going to do it. And that's just the fact of the matter of this sort of situation, right? Outcome dependence. You're very much dependent on that. And this is, kind of a silly one, or maybe a little bit embellished, but certainly maybe there's times like this in our lives where it is a matter of survival, or there's other things at stake that are just not, you can't compromise on. Yeah, sure, there's an outcome dependence in those sorts of situations. But as I said, most of the time, we might think that we have a dependence on an outcome, but the reality is we are completely independent of that outcome, whatever it might be. So let's say that in another instance, you've got a friend that's upset at you for something. Might be really childish or just silly. Doesn't really mean a whole lot in the big grand scheme of both of your lives, but they're I don't know, making some sort of threat, or basically just telling you that they don't want to be friends anymore, or they're gonna leave your lives and never talk to you again. In that sort of situation, maybe you care about this person, maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's a partner or something. But yeah, herein's a good case where you might be fooling yourself into thinking that you are dependent on this situation or even on this person. Like, in the same way you had dependence on your friend with the snake antidote in the example prior, you might think and feel that way. But when you really step back and stop and think about it, like, you are not dependent on that other person most likely for your survival. Yes, you might not want to lose their friendship or their presence in your life, but you are completely independent in the reality. That is real. That's the realistic truth of your situation that can give you some power to maybe not be so affected, or to not let them maybe manipulate you, or whatever the way this situation's turning out. And maybe that's, kind of a middle ground example between the extreme of the snake example, the one I just gave you, and then on the back end of that, I'll give you a very clear-cut and defined example of the outcome independence and the power that lies within. Let's say you go into a dealership and you're trying to negotiate a price on a car. If you really go in there like knowing that you are completely independent on the outcome of that negotiation on that day for that particular car, and you know that if this one doesn't pan out, hey, there's 100 other of these exact same types of vehicles with the same specs and all this kind of stuff that I want, just dotted all around the state or the country or whatever. If you know that deep down, you just know that, like I said, whatever the outcome of this negotiation is in this current moment, you're independent of that. It doesn't matter. And that, hopefully you can see the tremendous power that lies within that, because certainly the salesman's going to try to get you on the hook and do and say whatever he or she thinks they needed to do to make the sale on that day. But like I said, you've just got this power to walk away when you have that realization, that understanding that you're independent of that outcome of that negotiation on that day. And it allows you to just exercise that power as a buyer and negotiate a better price. And the funny thing I think about life is that people they can really tune in to this knowing that if you are one of these sorts of people that operates in this way and really truly embraces it and just knows that deep down, people will start to treat you different. And once again, the example of the salesman with the car guy there, he might just realize that he's not going to get any further with you, and he really wants to unload the car today, and he gives you a great deal on it. You walk out with a win, but it's because you had that power inside of you that was the outcome independence, is what allowed you to be able to operate like that in the first place. And you weren't in there needy and hungry and I've got to have this car. No, you don't need the car. You need the snake antidote from the example I told you a moment ago, but you do not need that car. Most of the time, you do not need crappy people in your life. You do not need a majority of the situations that you are confronted with, that you get into this mind trap of getting confused between outcome dependence and outcome independence. So that's just the biggest stuff that I wanted to leave you with today, is to just, number one, recognize the power that lies within that outcome independence. And number two, just know that you have it and learn to recognize like when you really have it and when you really don't. You'll live such a more efficient, I think, like more relaxed, like just better quality of a life if you can really embrace this notion and try to put it into practice, and really just try to keep sights of that every single day that you go through life and every single situation that you encounter. So I hope you're having a wonderful day. We'll talk again real soon.